Okay. So a very warm welcome to everybody to this second training workshop on virtual exchange from teachers to teachers. I am Christy Jauregui from Utrecht University, and I will be moderating the session today. Last week we had Begoña, today you will have me. And I will be introducing the workshop, our guests, and taking questions at the end of the experience that Bart and Michael will be sharing with us. We'll finalize the session with sharing the next live activities with you. Okay, but first of all, let's talk about the workshop protocol, which is important to make sure that the sound is okay and that we have no problems with the Wi-Fi connection. So please mute your microphones and keep your camera off. Ask questions in the public chat and we will take them at the end of the session. Okay. Raise your virtual hand at the end if you want to intervene in the question and answer session. Okay, so today's aims are very closely related to the eLife project mission. eLife Engaging Languages for Intercultural Virtual Exchange. We are a consortium of experts in the fields of foreign language education, intercultural virtual exchange, teacher education, school education, and technology-enhanced language teaching. And eLife addresses what we think are really key issues, the digital pedagogical innovation and social needs for enhancing inclusive intercultural communicative competence development and digital literacies through the pedagogical integration of virtual exchange projects, both at language teacher education institutions and also at schools. So the key terms we will be addressing today in our workshops is, of course, first, technology, the use of a less well-known digital environment, probably for many of you, and the next steps towards innovation, technological innovation. Then we will be talking about engagement and motivation, communication and intercultural awareness, task-based language teaching, as tasks are really very relevant when organizing these virtual exchanges called computer-assisted language learning, because many things we do are based on research. So blended learning, about how we blend the classroom activities with the virtual exchanges. We will refer also to lingua franca partnerships in German today, and inclusion, because all learners from both classrooms will be participating. So please allow me to introduce our guests today. Bart Pardoel, who is teacher of German in secondary pre-vocational education at the Nunens College in the Netherlands. He has been engaged in our previous projects, carrying out 2 virtual exchange projects. One with a secondary school in the UK, in London, and the second one with a school in northern France. And Bart will be focusing on the second one. Okay, so the main focus of the exchange was the purposeful language use and communication in German and the development of intercultural competencies of his students. And he will be interviewed by Michael van der Palen, who is a colleague, Bart's colleague at school at Nunens College, also teacher of German. So before giving the floor to our guests, have a look at the team that collaborated in the virtual exchange we are presenting today. So as you can see, first at the very center, we have the participating students of the 2 schools, then the teachers at both schools, Bart Pardoel and Miri Tapia. and the expert in virtual worlds, which is the technology we have been using for the virtual exchanges, who is Nick Schwartz, and myself as coach of the whole virtual exchange experience at the different stages, preparation, realization, and evaluation. So thank you very much, Bart and Michael, for accepting our invitation and be willing to share your virtual exchange experiences with all of us here present. Bart and Michael, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for the introduction, Christy. Bart, my first question, why did you get involved?
Well, as a language teacher, I love to get my students to actually use the language they're learning in an authentic way. By participating in a virtual exchange and meeting real students from real foreign countries, my students had the possibility to actually have those experiences. Moreover, they also had the chance to improve their digital competences, getting to know new cultures, and of course have a lot of fun doing so.
What did you want the exchange to help your pupils with?
Speaking skills are very hard to practice during regular class hours. Usually it boils down to have one or two students talking and the rest of the students is quiet and listening. There are some students with some serious speaking anxiety as they feel sometimes insecure about their language level. So I guess I just wanted to help my students feel more at ease using the language, let them practice their speaking skills in a safe environment, and at the same time having fun.
And for you personally, what did you want to get out of the exchange?
Personally, I like technology and I like language learning. I wanted to explore the many possibilities in the virtual world to learn and teach language, to use the language, to meet new people, and all in all have a rewarding, worthwhile experience.
Do you think these exchanges were engaging for the students?
What I observed is that my students were speaking a lot in class. They used German most of the times, not always. They helped each other. They were focused on getting the tasks done. And I saw my students being actually involved in the exchange. So yes, I'm confident that these exchanges were in fact engaging for my students.
So who were your students?
My group was a MAVO group, which is in the Netherlands what we call the third class, the derde klas. They were 15 years old, approximately, sometimes 14, 16, but in general 15 years old. And I had 20 of them in my class. Their level can be described as an A1 or A2 level, going to A2 actually. And it was a class with no specific needs. There were some dyslexia students, but that's about it. On the technical side of things, we had 7 laptops, and headset and microphone in class. And the objective of this exchange was, of course, intercultural engagement and development.
Who were your partner's students?
Well, funnily enough, we had a very comparable class. In France, it was also the third class. She had also students of approximately 15 years old. She had one more, 21. And her language level of the students, was the same, also A1 going to A2. No specific needs, the same technical setup, and of course, the same objective of the exchange.
How did you find your partner?
A long time ago, I applied for an e-twinning account. A bit of curiosity, to be honest. eTwinning is a platform on which European schools can find each other to collaborate. So there is where I met Miri, the teacher in France, and we both expressed the wish for our students to also meet each other. That's how it all started.
And how did you negotiate the objectives?
That one was a tough one, to be honest. So the first thing we did was we selected classes in which the students had approximately the same language proficiency. That was the easiest part. But as the French national curriculum and the syllabus from our school were obviously not aligned, we had some troubles finding overlap. In the end, we decided to use the themes that were in both of our programs anyways, albeit in different periods. We rescheduled them so that they could fit in our project period of time. This was a lot harder for Miri, the teacher from France, than it was for me, but in the end we managed to design 6 learning tasks using German in a real-life context at A2 level, A1, A2 level.
And how and why did you choose for a virtual world?
A virtual world is an immersive environment where the students not only can walk and talk, as avatars of course, but they can also interact with each other and with the virtual environment. And that opens up a lot of possibilities to stimulate language learning situations. Moreover, it's a very good opportunity to meet new students from another culture. And of course, it is great that the students can actually use and sometimes need to use the second language, because the communication in the virtual world is synchronous and the feedback from the peers is direct. And finally, by using avatars, it also feels a bit more safe to speak compared to, for example, speaking directly into the webcam at school. The students could also feel a little bit more embarrassed that way, and it certainly would not have helped to overcome the language speaking anxiety.
About the time slots, how did you organize them?
Miri and I planned way ahead, like a year before. After deciding which classes were about to participate, we had a very interesting conversation with our colleague who makes the timetable for the next school year. And Miri and I synchronized our timetables as good as we could. Obviously, this opened up a whole bag of opportunities as our students were now online at the same time. It was not perfect though, because my classes last for 45 minutes. The French students had longer classes in general. I thought it was 60 minutes. But there was an overlap of 35 minutes, which was good enough to set up the virtual meetings.
And how did you organize the pupils into pairs or groups?
Her class had 21 students. My class was 20 students. So we had similar group sizes. We decided to pair our students. Each one of my students got a number 1 to 7, and they were linked to their French partner, also number 1 to 7. And they were supposed to meet at one of the numbered spots on the map, which you can see here on the left side. Also, again, 1 to 7. So at all times, it was clear for the students what number they were, who they were paired with, and where they were supposed to meet.
Can you tell us how you did organize these sessions?
Yeah, well, as I said, we organized them in class, and the students were supposed to meet at one of the 7 spots in the virtual world. So that was one group. And the other group was doing other activities in class, and maybe I can tell you a little bit about that later in the interview.
What were the tasks and how did you choose them?
Well, we have a few tasks. You can see them here on screen. And we choose these tasks because they were easy going for our students. It was not difficult for them to exchange information about each other or about the things they eat or celebrate or wear. And these tasks usually also contain cultural elements, which Miri and I both found important, and we wanted our students to also have this intercultural experience. Oh, and one more thing. The exchange took place around the Christmas holidays, and we choose therefore tasks 3 and 4 because it fitted nicely into that time of the year. Both of our student groups were really looking forward to their vacation, and they were talking about it anyways in Dutch or in French. So we figured might as well let them talk about it in German as well. Plus, they could also practice to express future plans and share past experiences in German.
How did you organize task phases during class hours?
Well, we decided to go for 1 task per week. And as I told you earlier, we divided our students into 3 groups, and each student in that group was given a number between 1 and 7. Then I also physically split my classroom. In my case, this was by a row of tables, effectively making it a 2-room classroom. In the one half of my class, the students sat behind the laptop and met their French partners in the virtual world. And in the other half of my class, my students were very busy preparing for their turn in the virtual world, or if they were already there, they were engaged in so-called post-task activities. For example, in the first task, which was the blind date task, they started with a pre-task activity. Pre stands for preparational, so they prepared their task. Pre-task activity, where they had to write down questions and answers about themselves on a sheet of paper. And we as teachers helped them a little bit by giving them some useful German words, because this way, not only did they know what to ask their partners, but they also knew what to expect to be asked in return. So it really helped them prepare. In the classroom, we used a carousel model, so that the 7 students from the first group were the ones who were actually engaged in the speaking activity. So that was the main task. Their classmates from group 2 helped them. So in group 2, also student number 1 was paired to my student number 1. And he or she helped them, for example, when they got stuck and did not know what to say. It was very comforting for the speaking student that he or she was not alone in the task, and it was also very comforting for the helping student that he or she was only indirectly involved. Because when you think about speaking anxiety, they felt a lot more safe and certain in this way. The third group at that time was busy doing the pre-task and post-task activities. I explained pre-task already in the blind date example. A post-task activity is an activity where students are engaged in after the main activity. In this case, in the blind task case, they received information about their French partner, and they were supposed to make a presentation or write an article to present their partner, their French partner, to their own classmates, the Dutch classmates. One thing is important to mention. The pre-task and post-task activities were done largely autonomously. I was physically present in the class. They could have asked me things, but my attention was more directed to the virtual world part of the class most of the times.
What were the most positive aspects?
Yeah, if I think back on the on my experience with this Tequila exchange, I think that the engagement of the students, how actively they were involved in doing these tasks, was one of the things that struck me most in a positive way, because all my students were involved in the activities. The main task group was speaking, the helpers were helping, and the pre-task and post-task students were very busy preparing their next task or working with the information they got from the main task. So they were all involved with the activities. They were speaking German during the whole task. That's not entirely true. They spoke it like 95% of the time, because sometimes when they really did not know what to say, they used English as an escape, or as a strategy, I must say. Another positive aspect is the fact that they practiced speaking and they corrected each other. They helped to find out about new words, vocabulary, trying to rephrase if the French partner didn't understand. Also a little bit of hearing practice, of course, because they had to understand the French students. They were very excited about talking to their new partners in France. Sometimes they even exchanged Instagram accounts, Snapchats, whatever. So that was very good to see. Obviously, they were very aware of their own language, but also the language in the French class, and the level of it, of course. Intercultural awareness, especially when we're talking about the breakfast, or the way we celebrated Christmas, Christmas holidays, that showed some cultural differences, and it was interesting to see how they exchanged this information. And of course, the literacy and digital skills that increased throughout the project.
Is there any room for improvement?
Yeah, I think it would be easier if we have more matching and suitable periods of time for both schools. Now it was very hard to synchronize our timetables. As I said, we started the year before to do so. And it's always a little bit clamped in between the other lessons. So we basically had 3 times a week, half an hour time to do this, and then the normal lessons started again. So that would be an improvement if we could find something there. The coordination between teachers and students. Sometimes, for example, if there were students in France that were ill or absent for some reason, and my students didn't know, my students were waiting at the agreed upon spot in the virtual world, waiting for a student from France that never came. And also the other way around, when my students were ill, we had the same issue. So coordination is very important. Media and I tried our best, but sometimes these slip-ups happened. Time constraints, yeah, I said it before. We only have an overlap of about 35 minutes. In my class, it meant that we had to get the laptops, open the laptops, set up the account, log in the world, trying to find the partner. It was at times a little bit stressful, especially when there were also tech issues. For example, if the Wi-Fi could not process the amount of data, the avatars returned reduced to some sort of cloud. And that wasn't nice, and it diverted from the whole experience.
How did your students, experience the project?
Yeah, one of my students, in fact, made an audio recording, and I would like to show this to you. Let you hear it.
Okay, so it's a different version of learning. Most students and teenagers nowadays, they don't like learning from books anymore. It's not kind of our thing anymore. Some people do, but not most of us. So what we tend to do is we go on social media, technology. That's what we like. And for us, it's a better way of learning. We learn faster with it. And through games and this, we speak. It's a way faster, easier way to learn a new language. That's how I learn English. For nowadays, people, this works so much better. I think my entire class went so much more forward with their German just through this project. There's no need to shame. Everybody is learning. Nobody exactly controls his language, everybody is still in progress of learning, so makes a lot of mistakes. And because we make these mistakes, and we both make them, we're kind of like in our own safe place that we make mistakes, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that we make mistakes and it doesn't matter, and that is really what better situation can you imagine as a teacher when a student says, "Okay, I can make mistakes, but it doesn't matter." I mean, that is learning, right?
On your experience with a virtual world for language learning, what is the added value?
One of the main advantages of a virtual world for language learning is that it is a safe place to practice your foreign language. It's not you, it's the avatar who's talking. And another valuable aspect is the interaction with the environment and with the other avatars. All in all, a virtual world for language learning can really be an immersive environment in which language learning and also language using experience is very positive.
And what about the challenges? What are they?
I'd say organization and coordination, especially in synchronous communication, as I did with the French school. It can be a challenge to synchronize your timetable, to pinpoint appointments, organizing that all your students are working in class and doing the tasks they're supposed to do. So on the organizational side of things, that can be a challenge. Technology can be a challenge. It depends on how well it's implemented at your school and what kind of software and virtual worlds you're using. And funnily enough, audio can also be a challenge, because if the whole class is speaking and listening, they might hinder each other sometimes because they simply can't hear it, because there's a lot of noise both in game in the virtual world and in class itself.
What advice would you give the teachers present here today for their exchanges?
Well, what I presented to you today, this was all about Tequila, the previous project. And in Tequila, we used OpenSim as our virtual world. And that was good for at the time, but OpenSim has some hordes to take before you can use it in class. In our new project, based on all these previous Tequila experiences with virtual worlds, we decided to go for a new type of world, which is called Frame VR. Frame VR has a very low threshold to enter, and it is accessible on any device. So that's very positive in my opinion. You can even use 3D goggles to upgrade your experience from a virtual world to virtual reality, for which Frame VR is very suitable. And in this virtual world, we won't have the same tech issues as the previous as the previous OpenSim. So the design is much smoother. For an advice, I would say if you use a new type of software, such as that's Frame VR, I'll show you a little bit more about it later. You should also try to be in close contact with your school. So coordination is very important. Plan ahead, like a year ahead is maybe a little bit too much, but you need to really try and flatten out all problems that might arise. Organize the task in 3 phases, as I did before, with the pre-task, the main task, and the post-task. That's important, so that the students also know what to expect and what they're supposed to do, and also what they do with the information afterwards. Of course, you should try and adapt the materials to your students, to their needs and to the resources you have available. And as we did with the Christmas holiday activity, you need to try to make the content of the task interesting for the students for what they're doing at that time.
What further advice would you give the teachers present here today for their exchanges?
Yeah, be there available. Be there for the students, be available for them at all three phases. I was mostly there during the in the virtual group, which was good, but there were occasionally a few questions from the pre-task, post-task group, and if they are stuck, they don't have any other students that were supposed to help them. So it's very important for them to feel heard as well, and that they know what to do and what to do when they're stuck. On the technology part of it, make sure you have backup. If you're a tech-savvy teacher, you can be your own backup in solving technological problems, but I would advise you to have a tech guy on your phone at all times, maybe even in class during setup, so that things work smoothly, so that you can really enjoy the experience, the process, and not constantly be trying to solve problems one step at a time. And obviously enjoy the process. You will make mistakes, they will make mistakes, but as my student told us earlier, you can learn from your mistakes. So enjoy the process, enjoy being in a virtual world, enjoy your students speaking with each other, laughing with each other, exchanging information with each other, and learning about other cultures and using your language.
Would you like to continue using virtual worlds for language learning, and what would the next step be?
Yeah, I told you before, Frame VR is one of the new virtual worlds I would use, because the information, experiences we have with OpenSim made me actually believe that another virtual world would be solving some of the issues we have, the technological issues we have, and we can still have the good experience that my students in my class had. So Frame VR has a very low threshold to enter. We don't have to open ports or install software or whatever. You can use it on any device. You can use 3D goggles to actually have a virtual reality instead of a virtual world. The design is much smoother. So, the design is much smoother. So yeah, I would like to use virtual worlds for language learning. It helps my students practice German. It lets them meet new people, lets them learn about interesting cultures to improve their digital competences, and maybe the most important, to have fun in doing all of what I just said.
Yeah, excellent words. And Michael, thank you so much for sharing this experience with all of us. I think it has been really illuminating, and there are some questions. And I would like to start maybe with the first one, because Petra, with the first one, what is a virtual world? Petra and Charo are asking, how do you make such a virtual world if you have no technical software experience with this?
How do you make it? You mean, how do you design it? Or I'm not sure if I understand it.
Yes. How you design it, how do you start with it?
How do you start? Yeah, okay.
How do you start? How do you design it? How?
How? Okay.
How?
Well, first, I like technology, but I did not make any of this myself. That is, I designed the tasks, but I did not go into the code and trying to program a world or dragging around items or something like that. We were lucky. We had, of course, our partner Nick Zwart, who was doing all of this. What you have to understand as a teacher is you have to think in possibilities what a world like that can offer. And my advice would be to use existing worlds. If you don't have any tech skills at all, use existing worlds and try and see the possibilities we have there, the affordances a world can offer. And then, well, later on you can maybe adjust some things, but don't start in designing a whole world. I mean, that would take too much time, and frankly, it's not a task of a teacher to do that.
Yeah, and if I may add, Bart, these words, these were developed in previous projects that we have coming out, like Tila and Tekola, and Nick Zwart was our virtual worlds expert. Yeah, so we had like a Spanish village, Valencia village, no town, sorry. We have Saarbrücken for Germany, we had Paole for France, and we had Chachadale for English, yeah, with all kinds of buildings, a little bit, so that one can get the sensation, the impression that you are in that specific country, in the town or in the village. So this is in there, yeah. So if you want to use them with your students, you can. But as Bart was saying, there are some technical issues with OpenSim, which is the virtual that we have been using, because it wouldn't work with Chromebooks, or it didn't work with Mac. You cannot use it in your smartphones or in your tablets. So you have to install a viewer in order to be able to access the world. If you are working from school, then the technical people from your school have to open a port so that you can be able to use it and to speak and listen to what others are saying. So our next step is indeed Frame VR, as Bart was saying, which is also a virtual world, but which is so easy because it is an internet address. Okay, and you have everything. You have the avatar, and you can speak, and you can do more things than what you could originally do in OpenSim. So we are working on that, and we have 4 different villages, and we will be seeing that later on in the next steps. That we will be organizing workshops for December. So if you are interested in knowing more about virtual worlds, Frame VR, then you should be there when we organize this workshop, which won't be here in Big Blue Button, but probably you will be invited to join us in Frame VR in that virtual world, and you yourself will be an avatar.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, okay. And there was a question by Annika. How many lessons did you spend on the project in total?
We had 3 lessons per week. The project lasted 6 weeks, so that was 18 lessons we dedicated to the project itself. Then, of course, we had a little phase before the tutorials, so that the students were acquainted with the software, with OpenSim, the virtual world. And we had some preparational sessions, Mia Miri, but those were outside of school. So in lessons, approximately 20, and then some time around it that Mia Miri set together and designed and coordinated the whole thing.
Mhm. Annika also says that she really likes the idea of working in different groups, working on the pre and post tasks and participating within the virtual world, within the same classroom. So
Yeah.
she says that she's going to use the same setup in the future. So which is
Beauty of it is if you assign your students a number and that number is having a task, then they always know what to do. So you can also hang a schedule in the room saying, okay, number one is doing this in the post-task activity, in the pre-task activity, in the main activity, and it really gives them a sense of autonomy. Of course, they have to carry out a task, but they have to say well, they can work in their own pace. They can help each other. I mean, they're not reliant on you telling them what to do and then they're going to start it. So yeah, I was very satisfied with my with my setup. Yeah.
yeah, and I have a question myself, Bart. I
Mhm.
didn't share that with you yet. So
Okay. So you surprised me. That's
yeah,
nice.
because last week we were talking about that. How often should you organize such exchanges? And well, in your case and in Miri's case,
Mhm.
the students were participating each week, not each month or not every 2 months, but every week.
Yep.
So, how do you experience that? And would you be willing to do the same thing, yes or not, and why?
100%. Yes, 100%. I think, especially for a language and especially for my type of students, it's so much better to be focused on one type of activity or one task, or in this case, one type of lesson. Maybe I should call it like this, like that. So it would be very strange for them, I think, if we did this only once a month after school. That would be, well, that's different. What I notice now is that after um, the first anxiety of lesson one, so the blind date, they knew their partner, they knew what to do, they knew what to expect, and the next lesson when they came in, they were not uncertain anymore, and they were not surprised by what was going to happen. They knew it was going to happen. So they easily lowered their anxiety and just did it. It's, I wouldn't say it's magical, but it was a process that was, I think, not going to happen if I only did it once a month, because then the shy students could still hide. Now they can't hide. They were in the process.
Okay, yes, thank you. Thank you. Any more questions? Do you have any more questions to Bart? There are no more questions. Can we go then to the next? Yes, because next week we will be having our next workshop. It will be on Tuesday, the 29th of November at 7 p.m. Central European Time. Okay, and then we will have two teachers that will be also done in an interview way. So Oscar Baleiro from St. Joseph School will be interviewed by Manuel Fernandez from Santo Ángel School from Badajoz. Yeah, and the focus will be on diversity. Yeah, because Oscar Baleiro works in a school where students come from many different ethical, no, not ethical, sorry, different cultural backgrounds. Okay, so that will be on the 29th of November. And then in December, as I told you, we are willing to organize also two different workshops, one focusing on differentiation and the other one on Frame VR. So Frame VR is the virtual world that we will be also using within the eLife project, if you want, also with you. Okay, so don't miss them. And next week, on Tuesday, we will be providing more information about that, and we will be contacting you as well with information about when these workshops will take place. And if you want to know more about the eLife project, have a look at the website. If you haven't joined the eLife project, the eLife family, then you can join us, as you can see there in red. Yeah, if you go to the website, and you can fill in a form with your information. Okay, and we will contact you. And you can follow us in social media. Okay, we have a YouTube channel, and we are in Facebook and Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. So, and I would say, yeah, that's all. Yeah, I don't know whether if you have questions, observations, comments. Now is the moment to do that. Now, thank you, Bart, for sharing such a motivating and didactic experience. The formal questions answered made the seminar really dynamic. Congrats, best regards from Alcalá. Thank you, Soraya. Thank you, very nice. Okay, thank you all, and thank you especially Bart and Michael, our very special guests today, and thank you for your questions. And there is a question. Somebody asking, yeah, go ahead. I saw a hand.
I think it was Bianca, right? Or Blanca.
Do you want to ask a question? No, sorry. Okay, don't worry. That was nice. Maybe you wanted to say bye-bye. Okay, thank you, everybody. And yeah, we hope to see you next week, Tuesday at 7 o'clock. Okay, have a very nice evening, and start thinking of what would you like to do with your own students. Okay, so thank you, and see you all. Bye-bye.